We are back with the Screen Team on KWOC. Thanks for listening. Of course, we're all about letting you know before you go, whether that's, to your local theater, whether it's to your DVD shop, the Redbox, Netflix, whatever, man. We want you to know how the movie is going to be before you go and partake in it. We've got Matt and Jenna Whitworth here to give you some movie reviews. We've already taken care of a classic called An American in Paris with Gene Kelly. We're moving on to a film that I believe came out in 2016. The movie's called Everybody Wants Some. And Matt, this is a film that kind of, if you're a fan of maybe like a Dazed and Confused or an American Graffiti, this might be a movie that might interest you, right?
I'd say so. It definitely harkens back to Richard Linklater, the director's earlier works like Slacker, Scanner Darkly. Slacker really didn't have much of a plot, and this movie really doesn't have one either. Mm-hmm. I thought this would have worked a lot better as like a mini-series on HBO than a movie, because when it finally ended, Jen and I looked at each other like, that's it? And it felt long, it felt like, well, that's about the substantial amount of time for, a movie, but there wasn't any real plot to the movie compared to, say, School of Rock, another one of his greats, or Dazed and Confused, where there was a lot of things that were going on, a lot of subplots. This one, there's a little bit of romance, and just when it blossoms, the movie sort of ends. Yeah. And there aren't really many spoilers to give out because there's not really much to spoil, but It's a very funny movie. There's some likable characters. Yeah. We were really impressed with Justin Street's character, Jay. He reminded me a lot of Ryan Gosling's character from The Nice Guys, and I was kind of hoping this would be a lot like The Nice Guys, and it's not quite on that level of quality from a period piece comedy, but
which character did Justin? I know you said that he played
Jay. He was the one that like the mustache, blonde hair.
Well, they all had mustache.
They all had
right.
mustache.
Okay.
It was from the 80s.
He was one of the main ones that was with Jake, the lead that Jenner played.
Okay.
He's the one that tried using horoscopes and adaptability to get girls, and that was his main goal in life, was to play baseball and get girls, Are
you sure you're not talking about Finn?
Yes, it was Finn. My mistake. Yeah.
Finn is awesome.
Finn stole the show for me. Yeah. Finnegan, there you go. Glenn Powell then.
He played in the TV show called Scream Queens, which Sabrina loves, and it's okay to me, but he is hilarious in that.
That doesn't surprise me. He seems like he'd be good in mediocre shows.
Yeah,
he'd be a bright spot otherwise. Watchable show.
Very nice, but yeah, I think that kid is going to be definitely be a star down the line. Jenna, what did you think of it? Do you agree with Matt? Was this just?
I do agree with Matt. I told my parents that it's like Animal House, but with baseball and no plot.
Yeah.
It's funny. There's some great parts to it, but the entire time I'm like, okay, so when's the action going to hit? What's the big
when do they start
practice
moment?
Yeah, what's the big game going to be like? Are they going to lose? Are they going to win? Nothing.
The setting is early, like 1980, summer right before school starts. And it goes a little bit into the school semester.
By one day.
Not
even a full day. Just
right.
Starting of classes at 8 a.m.
college, and it follows the baseball team. They all room together, and they're given strict rules by the coach at the beginning. Pep talk, of everybody rooming together, but nobody follows the rules, obviously. It's a pretty decadent time, and it's kind of an aimless plot, with people. It is a pretty accurate representation of college life, especially for athletes, and especially
even
for baseball
band
players.
Geeks. Even as band
Sure.
geeks.
They also show, they show the band geeks and the theater nerds and stuff like that, and their parties and how artsy fartsy it is, and it's adorable.
Sabrina didn't watch the movie, but she watched that scene, and she's like, I don't remember parties like that. Oh yes, wait, I do. As they got further into the plot line of that party, but what do you guys think about the music? I mean, these kind of movies are based on recognizable music and what you guys know, and it kind of helps deliver the scenes. Did the music help the story at all move along?
Yes,
yeah, I thought so.
Absolutely.
What little story there was. Again, this is not that you can really compare it to 2001: A Space Odyssey, but it's a loose plot. It's a loose narrative. And I guess it's just mainly to show a week in the life of college students from that era. And the plot, or not the plot, but the score was fantastic. You can call it that. The soundtrack was so great.
Right. I usually really, really like films like this. I love Dazed and Confused. Yeah. I really loved American Graffiti, where you're just watching, the days of young kids, and the music helps move the plot along. But this movie was boring. It was really, really boring to me. And I thought a lot of the dialogue, usually with these kind of films, if you're going to do them, the dialogue has got to be interesting.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that way with this film. I felt I was like, man, I don't care about any of these people. I don't care if they play baseball or they lose or that guy gets the girl. I really didn't feel that. And it really almost felt like they were just showcasing off the period. Like they're saying, hey, remember in the 1980s when we all went to discos? Remember when we went to and played Cotton Eye Joe? Remember when we drank Dr. Pepper? It was just like blatantly right in your face, and
They wanted Dr. Pepper? Yeah, that was the line.
It didn't seem seemed forced to me. All those kind of gimmicks seemed forced to me. There was even a scene where all the baseball players are in the room. They're kind of bored, and they're showing their competitive nature. They're like, doing the knuckle
and the ping
thing.
pong and all that.
And the one kid is playing like a handheld video game, and they made a point to show a close up of that. Like, hey, remember playing these in 1980? it seemed forced to me. I don't think it's a bad movie, but I don't think people should be wasting their time with it. To be honest with you. I mean, if you liked American Graffiti, if you liked Dazed and Confused, give it a watch. But I think you'll be done after that.
Yeah.
I'll go further to say if you like Slacker by Richard Linklater, because that one had a loose plot, but it also kind of showed a day in the life of people in Austin, Texas in the early 90s in a very artsy community. And it wasn't really meant to have a plot. This one, it felt like it should have had a plot.
Yeah.
The other one was kind of like, okay, I get the premise, and I get that it's doing something different. This movie felt like it should have gone more traditional, and it could have had a really good movie, and it had likable characters. It just, there wasn't anything really to attach to. There's no baseball game to build to. There's no real climax. And like we said, when you get attached to the two romantic characters, the two main characters, the movie ends.
Yeah.
So...
Can you guys explain what happened to facial hair, like in the 1980s to now? I mean, like they all had like
in the early 80s,
awesome.
especially the late 70s.
You like this?
I will admit the best part about that movie was the total throwback to the 80s with the facial hair, the outfits. I loved it. I was totally in at that point.
I laughed at the country bumpkin, the guy from South Texas that everybody made fun of, looked the least redneck to me.
Yes,
even though he had a cowboy, and everybody else looked like they were straight out of like out of a really bad Bubba redneck movie. You know what I mean? Like that was just kind of the style in the early 80s before the spandex took over.
Exactly.
Or the new wave.
That was funny how they showed like three different styles of music that were popular in the 80s. They're like, punk. Hey, remember disco?
Yeah.
Hey, remember country, Cotton Eye Joe? And remember punk?
Yeah.
It was interesting that
I will say this, that is the best cover of Gilligan's Island I've ever heard it. They go to a punk show and the punk band is playing Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
Like, is that the theme song to Gilligan's Island? Like, yeah, and they all start moshing.
Yeah.
That was probably the highlight of the movie for me. That and whenever the pitcher that's not all there, gets into a fight, gets everybody kicked out of the club, and then everybody's mad at him, and he says, fine, I'll just go back to my room and I'll do a bunch of crunches and stuff. What do you think? And then runs all the way back to his room and leaves his car there.
I will say, though, the main hitter guy, I can't remember his name, but he actually...
The guy from Teen Wolf.
Was on a minor league baseball team, so his
was he really?
batting skills are legit.
Hotchland, he was in Road to Perdition, which we also reviewed.
He's a young kid,
So he actually played baseball
and he looked like a baseball
leagues.
player, like out of all the other guys who looked like they were athletes, but this guy actually looked like he was a prospect,
Yeah.
He also plays Superman too in the
in
Supergirl.
Interesting.
Yeah. Good times, guys. Good times. The movie is called Everybody Wants Some. I'm interested to hear what Jenna thought of the new Beauty and the Beast. We'll find out next on K.